Hello and welcome to 10 Minute Tabletop. I'm Devin.
And I'm Darren.
And here are the 3 biggest stories in tabletop gaming news in 10 minutes or less so you can get back to playing the game. First up, Lord of the Rings, the Magic the Gathering set. It's called Tales of Middle-earth.
Yes, this very highly anticipated collaboration in their Universes Beyond thing where they collaborate with third-party IPs is Lord of the Rings. Everyone went crazy for it, but the craziness has reached a new level.
So here's what's funny is Magic the Gathering has been doing a lot of these crossovers, right? With Warhammer, with Dungeons and Dragons, a ton of different properties. And they're trying to create these collector sets to drive value. But Bank of America put out a statement saying they're flooding their market. They're flooding the market with too many cards. They released more sets this last year than they ever have in previous years, sets of cards. So it almost seemed like, is this going to continue down that same road? A lot of the sets have performed really well, but it's still kind of dilutes the aftermarket value.
Right. Yeah, but this one, I don't know. I feel like there was a lot of excitement for this one. I think that's just the power of Lord of the Rings in general. And the crazy thing that's been going on, right, is this $2 million card bid.
Yeah.
This is insane.
Actually, I'm not sure if it's $2 million or 2 million euros.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
But a Spanish hobby shop in Valencia, Guild of Dragons, is offering a $2 million bounty in a trip to Spain.
And a trip to Spain.
And there's also in at least one meal of paella. I thought was fun. I love
made by my mother's.
It feels like a great to have in a writer, only green M&Ms. But there was some other bounties right there. Someone says $50,000 and you let me go with you to a volcano to destroy the card, which I thought was funny.
Someone in Buffalo, New York, another shop did $1 million, right? And it just keeps going up and up, and it's for that One Ring card. So it's obviously the One Ring, Lord of the Rings, heard of it.
Yeah. So and if you haven't been following this, Lord of the Rings, in this set there is only one single card that is the One Ring, and only one exists, and it's in one of the collector's edition booster sets.
Yeah, it's very Charlie and the Chocolate Factory vibe. It said it's a 0.003% chance of actually finding it, which is... And
I love the idea that nobody finds it and it just ends up in a stock room for years until it's found 5 years from now. I love that.
Yeah, someone buys it and doesn't even notice it. Just puts it in their
I got the One Ring, and puts it in a fucking thing, and one
old
day,
guy not on the internet.
One day they're just playing a game with someone and they play that card and the person's do you fucking understand what you have? No, but here's the kind of deeper dive. I went and I called this past weekend 20 different game stores throughout the U.S., Midwest, East Coast, West Coast, and I asked them how this set was performing.
Right.
And here's some kind of quick learnings we got. Some of the biggest things I heard is it has brought in a lot of new people who aren't familiar with Magic that wanted to learn because of Lord of the Rings.
I can see that. Yeah.
They said that this had the most amount of people wanting to come learn based off of other sets released in 2023.
Okay.
So it's been in a lot of new people. The second most popular thing I heard is it was the most anticipated release they had seen this year. And then the rest is the sales have been kind of okay. They haven't been the best sales of the year of any set. But the anticipation of people interested in it seems to be great. And the fact that so many stores said a lot of new people came into the store looking to get into Magic the Gathering because of the Lord of the Rings set.
That's interesting statistics, right? The fervor for it is crazy, but then the actual sales are kind of mid.
And this is all anecdotal, right? This is just a sampling of 20 stores that I called. But I think the biggest takeaway here and why it's important is what Wizards wanted to do is create collector sets and get new people into the game. And that's why they have done all these crossovers, to get new people interested in the game. And that's why they did crossovers with Magic the Gathering into Dungeons and Dragons, where Ravnica set came in, Theros came in, and then of course Dungeons and Dragons going to Magic the Gathering. They're trying to get more people into the game.
Yeah, I mean that's the benefit of the third-party IPs, right? It's if you're someone who doesn't understand Magic the Gathering, but Lord of the Rings the back of your hand, it'll be an easier entry point to be okay, I kind of understand this, and I kind of understand how this works. So if I can use that to get me into this, then.
Yeah. And, why is this important? It's important because Wizards is probably going to definitely continue trying to find any kind of overlap and collaboration they can with these kind of collector sets and these kind of special one-offs. I think that my idea is I think they're going to peel back how many they're doing, and they're going to go really, really hard on a few every year.
Yeah, the ones that will really actually bring in new people, like
Yeah.
people that are committed. It'll be interesting to see what collabs they pick in order to get new eyes
Yeah.
that would like specifically work in this
And
realm.
I'm interested to see. The other interesting is Magic the Gathering via Google Trends has the highest interest mark in the past 5 years. This month had the highest interest mark. So on Google Trends, you can look at how often are people looking for things, how much stuff is out there around it.
Oh, like Google searching stuff.
This is the highest interest they've ever had in the past 5 years is this month.
Damn.
So I think there's a lot of conversation happening around it, but this might be something that really kind of turns around Magic in Hasbro stock. They did kind of they hit about $60, which is kind of a high for the month for them. Last year they were at an $82 high, so they fell about like $26 from last year. But it does seem like this is kind of putting them on the upswing. So I'm excited to see what happens with Magic next.
Me too. Lord of the Rings legacy lives on, baby.
And our second story, Gloomhaven Festival. Gloomhaven was announcing that they're going to be releasing a tabletop RPG.
Yeah, and they just hit $1 million on Kickstarter. They're trying.
No, 2.3 million.
Oh, 2.3 million. Got those mixed up. But they're trying to get to 2.7, but they still have like 28 days left, right?
Their goal was 2 million.
Oh,
so their goal was 2 million.
Hit their goal.
Yeah, they hit their goal really, really fast. But the thing is, it's not just a tabletop RPG. They're also doing a second edition of Gloomhaven, the box set, and some pretty ambitious miniature sets.
Yeah, it's pretty beefy. It's like already known for being like a giant, complex board game, and like there's a million add-ons. Yeah, you got that second edition core rule book. You have stickers. You have like 603 miniatures, organizers, storage boxes.
And here's what's interesting. So I looked, looking at Frosthaven. Frosthaven did around 13 million. But Frosthaven was just Frosthaven. Right. I looked at the Gloomhaven and then Gloomhaven second edition, and they were just the box, and then the add-ons, the organizers, the miniatures, things like that. This festival is a second edition printing of the first Gloomhaven. It is the tabletop RPG, and it is also the miniature. So there's kind of like three things that are kind of being pushed out.
Yeah.
And I wondered if that was because they thought that the tabletop RPG wouldn't stand on its own. Is that why they put in Gloomhaven's second edition as part of this?
Yeah, well, they also put a lot of stuff that seems that like makes gameplay more like intriguing and interesting. They put in these like solo scenarios. They put in like second edition class upgrades and like audio narration. So they're really like beefing up the experience of like not just being the game itself.
Well, here's the thing. So Frosthaven did 12 to 13 million. That's over 83,000 backers, right? So far, this one, Frosthaven's over, so we don't know where Gloomhaven Festival is going to end. But this one is at 9,900 folks have already backed it. 24 days left. That is out of the 84,000 followers that they have on BackerKit. And this is all on BackerKit. This is the first time that Gloomhaven has done BackerKit instead of Kickstarter. And then the first Kickstarter for Gloomhaven did $300,000, with the second printing almost doing $4 million. And the goal for Gloomhaven Festival was $2 million, and Frosthaven was only $500,000. So
a little all over the place. Yeah.
Frosthaven they 4x'd the goal for the second edition printing and the tabletop RPG and the minis. Yeah, and that makes sense. Minis are expensive.
Yeah,
like that's always going to be incredibly expensive.
Yeah, and so if you can like mold that into the game to like get people to back it, that's understandable.
But I definitely thought it would had done a lot better. I mean, it only looks there's maybe less than 4,000 people that have backed any of the pledge levels that include the tabletop RPG.
You would think you would do more of that like $4 million range.
I thought day one probably around $4 million. But we'll see how the month ends. I mean, during this entire conversation, they're up at another $27,000.
Yeah, so they still have 28 days left to go. So.
It might just be kind of like and that might be a thing about Kickstarter versus BackerKit. BackerKit might be like a kind of, it just chugs along the entire month. And Kickstarter is definitely like your first 48 hours, your last 48 hours, and then everything in between.
Yeah. And it's like probably people still kind of like figuring out if like they need this second edition, they need these extra minis. So we'll see.
I mean, I know a lot of people who've backed, all of them and haven't even played them yet.
One of those games where
Yeah.
you're like, I'm gonna read that
Right?
that book one day. It's sitting on the I know I should. I'm gonna get to it.
All right, and our last story is Tales of Valiant.
Yes, another. This is the one that I got it mixed up with, but they hit $1 million.
Yeah, Tales of Valiant, which I mean, absolutely crushed. This is the highest earning Kickstarter that Cold War Press has ever done.
Yeah, and so again, we talked about Cobalt Press I think last week, and it's just like another example of like Cobalt Press like betting on their future, and they hit 1 million with like 1 day left to go, right? So
Yeah.
they like finally hit their goal. But this was Tales of the Valiant. They became a big deal under the name Black Flag during
Black
the
Flag, that was
D&D,
like kind of like the code name.
yeah, during the D&D 5e OGL controversy. But this is like a similarly but like legally distinct 5e game.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of 5e mechanics are part of Creative Commons now, but this is kind of building off a lot of that into its own system with heritage. Kind of changing how combat works. There's a lot that's having the playtest that a lot of folks can go and check out. But the reason why this is important is not only is this Cold Press's biggest Kickstarter they've ever done. This is huge, right? 10,000 backers. That's 10,000 people that want to play this game.
Yeah.
And that is a great first step in establishing a new high fantasy tabletop RPG in the space. And Cold Press with so much history of backing, and they have such a great team that they needed this to explode. They needed a huge success because they're betting their future on their new system.
Yeah, and this was just an example of like, okay, we're going to go out there, we're going to do our own thing, and it worked. It's successful, and it's good for their trajectory of where they're planning to go with all of this.
And with games like Tales of Valiant, Daggerheart, and the unlabeled MCDM project that are all high fantasy, they're all going to kind of be competing for that same space that D&D currently owns. It's going to be real interesting to see how D&D is going to try to remain competitive if these other systems continue to snowball.
Yeah, and especially with something like Cobalt Press that just has a lot of like loyalty and trust from its community that people like. It's beloved.
Exactly, yeah, right? So I'm very excited to see what happens next with Tales of Valiant. Of course, there's going to be tons of news coming out of Gen Con because we're going to be seeing play tests of all these new systems. Daggerheart will be doing a play test. And we'll probably see more about MCDM later this year.
Yeah, it'll be big here at Gen Con.
Yeah, and of course, we're going to continue to see more play test stuff come out for Tales of Valiant.
Yeah.
But hey, those are 3 big stories from this past week. We hope you enjoyed. And if you like this and you want to support the show, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/total party chill. Thanks so much and have a great week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.